Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be tackling a question that's been swirling around political circles for a while. Could Nikki Haley be our next president?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
We're going to try to take a look at her entire life, from her upbringing all the way to her current political standing, and see if we can glean any insight into her ambitions, and maybe even get a little insight into what her chances could be.
It's fascinating. Her journey is anything but typical. So I think to really understand her, we need to go back to the beginning.
Yeah, let's do it.
She was born Nimrata Nikki Randhauer in Bamberg, South Carolina, the daughter of Sikh immigrants.
Wow.
Imagine growing up as the only Indian family in a small town in South Carolina.
Yeah.
A predominantly white and black town.
So she was the only Indian family in the town.
Yeah, pretty much.
I bet that had a profound impact on her worldview.
Absolutely. And there's a story from her childhood that really highlights this. She was playing kickball with classmates, and, they insisted she choose a side, white or black.
Oh, wow.
And her response was, I'm neither, I'm brown.
Oh, that's great.
It shows, even at an early age, this awareness of being different, of not fitting neatly into existing categories that we take for granted.
It's a great anecdote.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if that sense of being an outsider really fueled her to succeed in a system that wasn't always welcoming.
I think it's certainly possible, and I think her family dynamics likely played a role too.
Okay.
Her parents were very strict and really emphasized hard work and resilience.
Okay.
Haley has even mentioned that they never said I love you.
Wow.
Instead, they really focused on preparing her to overcome challenges.
So that's a pretty unconventional approach to parenting.
It is.
Do you think that shaped her personality?
Yeah.
Or her leadership style?
It's interesting to consider. I think some might see that as fostering a certain emotional detachment, while others might view it as instilling a strong sense of self-reliance.
Right.
It could also explain why she's often described as tough and pragmatic.
And she was a very good student.
Oh, she was.
Her academic achievements were very impressive from an early age.
Oh, yeah. She was reading and writing cursive by age 4.
Wow.
Skipped a grade and consistently excelled.
Oh, my God.
But her mother's reaction to her report card was always, well, if you're happy with this, then I am.
So they weren't like, oh, my God, you got straight A's.
No.
That's so interesting. It's almost like they encouraged intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
Rather than seeking external validation.
Exactly.
So she has this very unique upbringing.
Yeah.
That instilled this very strong work ethic, a sense of independence, and maybe even a drive to prove herself.
Definitely.
In a world where she didn't always feel like she belonged. Right.
Right, and all those qualities were evident in her early career choices.
Okay.
At just 13. She was working in her mother's clothing business doing the accounting.
That's crazy. That's pretty young to be balancing the books.
It is. You can see how that experience might have instilled financial discipline and a practical understanding of business.
Right.
She goes on to study accounting at Clemson University.
Oh, wow.
And worked in the field for a while before returning to help manage her mother's growing business.
So she has this really solid foundation in business.
Wow.
But then she makes a pretty dramatic shift, what sparked her interest in politics.
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to say for certain, but you could argue it was a combination of factors.
Okay.
Maybe she saw politics as a way to make a larger impact to address issues that she really cared about.
Right.
Maybe she had a sense of frustration with the status quo or a desire to shake things up.
And she didn't just dip her toes in the water.
Oh, she didn't.
In 2004, she challenged a longtime incumbent for a seat in the South Carolina House of Representatives.
Wow.
Larry Kuhn had been in office for decades.
Wow.
So this was a bold move for a political newcomer.
Yeah, it certainly was. And it signals her ambition right from the start.
Right.
She wasn't afraid to take on the establishment. She wanted to challenge those in power.
Yeah.
And that was a pattern we would see repeated throughout her career.
Yeah, but that race wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't.
She faced some pretty nasty attacks, some even racially charged.
Sadly, yes. Her opponent's campaign used images of her father wearing a turban in their campaign materials, and they even falsely labeled her a Buddhist housekeeper.
Really?
It's a stark reminder of the prejudice that she faced.
And how did she respond to that kind of negativity?
She persevered.
Wow.
She even taped a fortune cookie saying to her computer,
Oh, come on.
"Winners do what losers don't want to."
That's great.
It really speaks to her tenacity, her refusal to be intimidated,
Yeah.
and ultimately she won that race, defeating Kuhn and taking her seat in the State House.
But even before the election, there were rumors swirling about her personal life.
Oh, yeah.
Allegations of an affair with a political blogger.
Mm.
Then during the campaign, a prominent lobbyist accused her of a one-night stand.
Yeah, these were incredibly personal and potentially damaging accusations.
Right.
It's important to note that no evidence was ever presented to support those claims.
So she denied them.
She vehemently denied them.
It seemed like she was being targeted both personally and professionally.
It's certainly possible that some saw her as a threat
Yeah.
and tried to derail her political ascent.
Right.
But Haley weathered those storms, emerging even stronger and more determined.
Wow.
Her victory in that election really marked the beginning of her rapid rise
Right.
through the ranks of the Republican Party.
So she wins that election, gets into office, and it's off to the races from there.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's remarkable how quickly she rose through the ranks.
Yeah.
In just 6 years, she went from state representative to governor.
Wow.
That's a testament to her political savvy and her ability to connect with voters.
Right. She clearly made a big impact in the South Carolina State House.
She did.
So in 2010, she sets her sights on the governor's mansion.
Yeah.
But that campaign wasn't without its hurdles.
Definitely not. This was the Tea Party era.
Oh, yeah.
And Haley faced some tough competition in the Republican primary.
Okay.
More accusations, denials, and plenty of drama.
And she even received an endorsement from Sarah Palin.
She did.
Which, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, Palin's endorsement must have been a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
It brought national attention, but it also potentially alienated more moderate voters.
Absolutely, it did. Both Palin's support helped solidify Haley's appeal to the conservative base, but also made her a target for critics.
Right.
But despite the challenges, she won the Republican nomination and ultimately the governorship.
And made history, right?
Right, baking heads.
As the first female and second Indian-American governor in the U.S.
Exactly.
So, wow. What were some of her defining moments?
Oh, there were many.
And policies as governor?
Well, she governed as a fiscal conservative,
Okay.
prioritizing economic growth and job creation. She was a strong advocate for lower taxes,
Right.
often comparing South Carolina's business-friendly environment to other states.
And she was known for her tough stance on unions.
Yes, very much so. A vocal opponent of unionization,
Right.
and actively worked to prevent unions from gaining a foothold in South Carolina.
Right. Which appealed to many businesses, but obviously drew criticism from labor groups.
Of course.
And her strong support for Israel was also a consistent theme throughout her career.
Absolutely. Her unwavering support for Israel became a cornerstone of her foreign policy views, a position she maintained even when it sparked debate.
But perhaps the most pivotal moment of her governorship,
Yes.
the one that truly catapulted her onto the national stage, was the Charleston church shooting in 2015.
A horrific tragedy that shook the nation.
A white supremacist gunman opened fire in a historic black church, killing 9 people.
It forced a reckoning with the legacy of racism in America.
Yeah.
And sparked a national conversation about Confederate symbols.
And Haley, in the aftermath of this tragedy, made a bold and decisive move.
She did.
She called for the removal of the Confederate flag from the State House grounds.
A defining moment in her governorship.
The Confederate flag has long been a source of controversy
Oh, absolutely.
in South Carolina and across the South.
Mm-hmm.
Haley had previously supported flying the flag, but the Charleston shooting seems to have really changed her perspective.
Yeah, it seems like she recognized the pain and hurt that the flag represented for so many.
Right.
And decided that it was time for a change.
So her call for the flag's removal was met with both praise and criticism.
As you would expect, some applauded her courage and leadership, while others accused her of political opportunism.
But nonetheless, the flag was removed,
It was.
marking a significant shift in South Carolina's political landscape.
Right.
So after 2 very successful terms as governor, what was next for Nikki Haley?
Well, in 2017, Donald Trump, the newly elected president, appointed her to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
Okay, so a major leap from state-level politics to the world stage.
It was.
How did she handle that transition?
She brought her signature blend of toughness and diplomacy to the UN.
Okay.
She continued her strong advocacy for Israel, took a hard line on Iran and North Korea,
Okay.
and wasn't afraid to clash with other countries,
Right.
even America's allies, when she felt it was necessary.
I remember her fiery speeches
Mm.
denouncing countries she felt were working against U.S. interests.
Oh, yeah.
She definitely didn't shy away from confrontation.
No. She was known for her direct and forceful communication style. Yeah. Some saw it as refreshing, others as abrasive.
Yeah.
But she certainly made an impact and garnered attention on the international stage.
But her time at the UN wasn't without controversy.
It was.
She faced criticism for some of her comments about Trump's handling of the Charlottesville white supremacist rally.
Yes. Her response to Charlottesville raised eyebrows.
Right.
Some felt that she didn't adequately condemn the president's controversial remarks,
Right.
which seemed to downplay the severity of the situation.
Right. And she also drew criticism for a Hatch Act violation after retweeting Trump's endorsement of a Republican congressional candidate in South Carolina.
Yeah, that was not a good look.
And then after just 2 years in the role, she resigned from the Trump administration.
She did.
What prompted that decision?
Well, her resignation in 2018 surprised many and fueled speculation about her future ambitions.
Okay.
Some saw it as a strategic move to distance herself from the increasingly chaotic Trump administration.
So after the UN, did she take a break from politics?
Not entirely. She remained active writing a memoir,
Okay.
starting a political action committee, and joining corporate boards.
So she was clearly staying engaged in public life.
Yes.
Keeping her options open.
Keeping those options open.
And her relationship with Trump during this time was well complicated.
She criticized some of his actions, particularly after the January 6th Capitol attack.
Right.
But she also maintained a cordial relationship with him and continued to support many of his policies.
Yeah.
It was a delicate balancing act, trying to appeal to both the traditional Republican establishment and the Trump wing of the party.
So 2023 rolls around, and the big question everyone's asking is, will Nikki Haley run for president?
Right, and she doesn't keep us waiting long.
Okay.
In February 2023, she formally announces her candidacy,
Okay.
becoming the second major Republican contender after Trump himself.
Which was interesting because she had previously stated that she wouldn't run if Trump was in the race.
Right. Seems like ambitions can shift.
Yeah.
Political calculations are constantly evolving.
Right.
And Haley's entry into the race was historic.
Yeah.
She was the first woman of color to seek the Republican presidential nomination.
Wow. But she faced a tough uphill battle against both Trump and Ron DeSantis.
She did.
Who were seen as the early frontrunners.
For sure.
So what was her strategy during the campaign?
Well, she positioned herself as a bridge.
Okay.
Between the traditional Republican establishment and the newer, more populist wing of the party that Trump had energized.
Right.
She called for a new generation of leadership, implicitly critiquing Trump's age and chaotic style,
Right.
while still embracing many of his policies.
So it was a delicate balancing act?
Very much so.
Trying to appeal to both sides without alienating either?
Yep.
Did that strategy resonate with voters?
Well, the Iowa caucuses were a mixed bag.
Okay.
She came in a distant second to Trump,
Okay.
but did manage to edge out DeSantis for that second-place spot.
Okay.
It gave her campaign some momentum.
Okay, that must have been encouraging for her team.
It was, but the road ahead was still very challenging.
Right.
The New Hampshire primary was a crucial test.
Right.
She campaigned hard, emphasizing her executive experience as governor
Okay.
and her foreign policy credentials.
And in New Hampshire, she achieved a historic victory.
She did.
Becoming the first woman to win a Republican presidential primary.
Exactly.
That must have energized her campaign.
It did momentarily. But Super Tuesday proved to be a turning point.
Okay.
She faced a string of losses, including a disappointing finish in her home state of South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
It was a major setback.
A tough blow, especially losing in her own state.
It was, and it led to a difficult decision.
Right.
Just a few days after Super Tuesday, Haley announced that she was suspending her campaign.
Wow.
Her bid for the presidency had come to an end.
So what now for Nikki Haley?
Yeah.
Where does she go from here?
Well, her political future is uncertain.
Right.
Some speculate that she might join a think tank or return to the corporate world.
Okay.
Others believe she'll stay involved in politics, perhaps aiming for a Senate seat or even another presidential run in the future.
She's certainly proven herself to be resilient and adaptable.
She has.
But after a presidential run, what could be next for her?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
Will she retreat from the national spotlight or find a way to stay relevant
Right.
and build momentum for a future run?
Only time will tell.
Exactly.
But we've seen her defy expectations before.
We have.
Maybe she'll surprise us all again. So after suspending her campaign, Haley endorsed Trump.
She did, but it wasn't immediate.
Right.
Remember, she had been critical of him, especially after January 6th.
Right.
It took a few months before she formally endorsed him for the 2024 general election.
I see. So it makes you wonder how genuine that endorsement was.
Yeah.
Was it strategic, or did she truly believe he was the best choice?
It's tough to say. She never publicly elaborated on her reasoning.
Right.
Perhaps she saw it as the best path to maintain her influence within the party, or maybe she truly believed that he had the best chance of defeating the Democratic nominee.
Well, Trump ultimately lost to Biden.
He did.
And he's made it clear that he's not going away. He's already announced his intention to run again in 2028.
He has.
So what does that mean for Haley?
It puts her in a tricky position.
Yeah.
Does she remain loyal to Trump and risk being seen as yesterday's news? Or does she break with him and potentially alienate a significant portion of the Republican base?
It's a tough call.
It is.
She has to weigh her ambitions against the realities of the Republican Party.
Exactly. And she's not the only one with her eye on the White House.
Right.
There are other potential contenders waiting in the wings.
Right.
Younger Republicans who might be seen as more appealing to voters looking for a fresh start.
So with all that in mind,
Mhm.
do you think she'll actually run again in 2028?
It's certainly possible.
Yeah,
She's shown remarkable resilience and ambition throughout her career.
she has.
She clearly has the drive and the experience.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, can she navigate the shifting political landscape and find a path to victory in a potentially crowded Republican field?
And let's not forget, she'll be facing the challenge of being a woman in a party that still struggles with gender equality.
That's a valid point.
Right.
While she broke barriers as the first woman to win a Republican presidential primary, she'll still face the inherent biases and double standards that women in politics often encounter.
It's a lot to consider. Her chances will depend on a multitude of factors.
Yeah.
The state of the Republican Party, the political climate, the issues that resonate with voters, and of course her ability to articulate a compelling vision for the country.
Right. It's going to be fascinating to watch how this all unfolds.
Yeah.
Nikki Haley has a knack for defying expectations.
She does.
Who knows what the future holds for her?
Well, there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into the life and career of Nikki Haley, a complex and ambitious figure who's already made history and might just be getting started.
Yeah.
What do you think? Will she run again in 2028?
Right. What do you think?
Does she have what it takes to become the first female president of the United States?
We've explored her background, her triumphs, her setbacks. We've seen her evolve and adapt. But ultimately, the question of her future is an open one.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives on fascinating figures and topics.